This is a community reading from Dispatch International. Freedom of the press cannot be limited without being lost. For more uncensored articles and editorials in Danish, Swedish, German and English, go to d-intl.com. That's d-intl.com. Author Maria Celander. Title: Swedish Journalists Get a Lesson in Free Speech. Published November 22, 2012. Summary: You're abandoning people by not describing the problems that exist, said Ingrid Carlqvist when interviewed at Publicistklubben on Monday. Publicistklubben Södra, a debate club for journalists, got a rude awakening when they invited Dispatch International Editor-in-Chief Ingrid Carlqvist, along with the controversial artist Lars Vilks, to a debate in Malmö on Monday. Days before the meeting, the club's website was spammed by angry remarks and protests. How dare they invite these hateful fascists to a serious debate? Outside the auditorium, protesters gathered, but this time, unlike the recent Geertwilders meeting, they showed up without eggs or poop bags. Publicistklubben Södra's chairman, the culture journalist Per Svensson, felt compelled to start the meeting by giving an apologetic speech. Among other things, he expressed regret that the club had been forced to close the meeting to non-members. There are special circumstances surrounding tonight's meeting. A lot of people don't seem to understand that this club is supposed to address conflict. It's a forum for debate on controversial topics, said Svensson. His interview with Ingrid Carlqvist, sole guest in this evening's hot seat prior to the main debate on art versus journalism, was to a large extent focused on how journalists handle subject matter that makes them uncomfortable. For the most part, the journalists spend their time bringing up the citizens. It's like they think we've reached some kind of intellectual nirvana. Now we know everything, now we've agreed on what's right, everything new is wrong and forbidden. That's a dangerous attitude, because it's the conversation in and of itself that is the foundation of democracy, said Ingrid Carlqvist. Svensson asked, "You talk about defending freedom of speech, but what you're really doing is criticizing Islam almost exclusively. Is Islam really the only threat to freedom of speech?" Carlqvist replied, "The only threat? No, of course not. But it is the biggest threat that we see. As soon as somebody criticizes Islam or draws a satirical cartoon, there's a riot in the Muslim world. Have you seen any such reactions from Christian groups on, for example, the Monty Python's Life of Brian? It's high time the Muslims learn how to tolerate criticism." Per Svensson had a hard time matching the Dispatch International campaign against prayer calls with the demands for absolute freedom of speech. Remember that freedom of religion also means freedom from religion. The prayer call contains what can be construed as a threat. There is no power or might except from Allah. You must learn the difference between threats and criticism, said Ingrid Carlqvist. She carefully pointed out that she has nothing whatsoever against Muslims. It is Islam as a political ideology she is critical of. She firmly dismissed the notion that Dispatch International and the Swedish Free Press Society, where Carlqvist is chairwoman, are steps in the so-called counter-jihad movement's strategy to establish Malmö as a bridgehead for anti-Muslim propaganda. Let me put your mind at ease. There is no such plan. The only important thing is to defend freedom of speech. I'm so tired of journalists labeling things and people extremist, brevikism, and xenophobic. I'm distraught over the developments in society, and I think you're abandoning people by not describing the problems that exist. Journalists take their duties too lightly. Per Svensson argued that Islam critics remind him of the anti-Semitic networks that flourished in the 1800s, and wondered if Ingrid Carlqvist was at all worried about history's verdict if something was to happen to the Muslim population along the lines of the Nazi persecution and attempted eradication of the Jews. You are forgetting that Hitler accused the Jews of all kinds of dreadful things, pure fantasies. We criticize the ideology and Islam's yearning for inhibitions. There's a great difference, Carlqvist said. Facts about Publicistklubben. Swedish Publicistklubben, founded in 1874, is a debate club for journalists, authors and other people working in publishing. The club's foremost task, according to its statutes, is to guard the freedom of press and speech, debate publishing issues, and promote the exchange of views. Also, to address issues surrounding questions concerning professional norms in publishing, cherish professional responsibility, and represent in public Swedish press, radio, and television in common concerns. This has been a community reading from Dispatch International, a weekly no-nonsense newspaper with real news that matters. If you would like to support quality journalism unhampered by political correctness, please go to d-intl.com/subscribe. That's d-intl.com/subscribe, where you will find a variety of subscription options in Danish, Swedish, German, or English. Thanks for watching this community reading from Dispatch International.